I was always picked up by police. I was quite aggressive.
Really?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was. It makes me a bit sad actually because I'm not like that at all.
What kind of things
Sober.
did you do?
I was just used to attack people, like my loved ones, my nearest and dearest people. Yeah, I did. And sometimes myself, like you know, there's a part of you that is quite sick with yourself, like especially as a woman. Like as you say, alcohol lowers your inhibitions.
Mhm.
You end up doing some things that I would never do. And there was a part of me that really hated myself after a while because I'm not a bad person. I've got a conscience, and yet I was doing these things. So you end up self-harming, like suicide attempts, all these things.
Really?
Yeah. So it was either an ambulance or a police car that often picked me up.
And this was a regular thing?
You never quite knew when it was going to happen. Like it was like Russian roulette. Like sometimes I could have alcohol. Like I would drink daily, but sometimes I would just drink and pass out. Other times I'd drink, I'd end up somewhere I had no idea where I was, or like in a river. Like it's really Russian roulette. You didn't really know.
What was a typical day like? Because were you still working at this time?
No,
No.
like yeah. I think my last stint at trying a normal life is I was doing bits and bobs of glamour modelling. I thought I'll go back to uni. I'll go to uni. That's what I do. That's safe. That's structure. Lasted about 3 months. I
Yeah.
did get my degree, but after that I was just drinking daily. It was every day. So no, I didn't work. It's hard for me to. Towards the end, it was difficult to know what was a dream and what was not a dream.
Really?
Yeah,
Is that intense?
just because it got so bad, like if you're drinking all day every day, you hallucinate, like you don't sleep, like you go into like withdrawal, you go into like DTs, like it's really odd. It's a really odd thing.
Where do you get, because obviously if you're not working, how do you even keep going? Because in a way, I've always, for me personally, I felt that success was one of the things that enabled my problem.
Yeah, well,
And
yeah,
without some success, I wouldn't be able to afford to drink every day.
yeah. I mean, it depends what you're buying. Uh, I do think it was sometimes a gift that I was so skint because I had to stop. I literally had no money. Sometimes I would steal. I would steal from my family.
Really?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, sometimes I would just find change. Sometimes I steal the alcohol.
Did they know when you?
I'm pretty sure they did towards the end. I wasn't allowed in the house anymore towards the end. It's a strange thing. Like, you know, I've heard this. Like, it's joked about amongst my peers in recovery that you know, we would do anything for a drink. We would get our fix somehow. We would get it. So if you apply that mind to something healthy, like a fitness goal or a financial goal, you have that same mind, but you can channel it to something good. So bring it back to your point. Sometimes I would walk for miles just to find a shop that was open that sold that like £4 Glen's vodka thing. Like sometimes I would hang out with a bloke just because he had some alcohol, like
Yeah. Yeah.
or drugs. Like if they had cocaine, even better. Like, yeah, I mean, it's survival at that point. Like it is a survival thing at that point.
Yeah. I smiled then just because, yeah, one of my fears is that it's harder to be successful now because I don't need to make as much money, in a weird way.
Right. That's an interesting thing.
Because now I'm so content and I spend so little money because I'm just happy.
Isn't that beautiful?
And like, I think, what do I want? I'm like, not much. Isn't that weird? But before, I was going to expensive restaurants every day, drinking like nice cocktail bars, drinking clubs, and every day.
Yeah.
And my alcohol budget was thousands
Yeah.
per month.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. I just don't. It's just like the idea of that. Oh, I need to make this much money. It just doesn't exist for me anymore.
I suppose what you said, which was, I want for nothing. I'm very content. that's the reason we make loads of money, isn't it? So if you can get to that bit without making loads of money,
Yeah, 'cause I just
brilliant.
don't care about many
Yeah.
things anymore. I used to be very
Mm.
materialistic,
Yeah.
or like in terms of pleasures, like hedonistic
Mm.
experiences, not
Mm.
so much with things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously towards the end of my addiction, I couldn't really do anything, but
Mm.
a bit earlier it's anything to get out of myself, any outside
Yeah,
distraction. And now my life's actually really boring because a bit like you, I
yeah,
don't really need it now.
hmm
Yeah, I don't really need it now. But I'm sure like there's some parts that will always be there. Like I'm a very driven person. I do still like a buzz. Like I do still like to get a buzz out of something. So if I achieve or if I succeed or if I kill that workout or that's
that's
still a bit
interesting.
there.
Yeah,
There's still a bit of that there, and that can be okay. That can be healthy. I think. Like,
I think so. I think it's very healthy, actually.
yeah, I suppose again it depends how you use it, doesn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, um, yeah.
So how did your family react to seeing you this way?
Oh, now I have a close loved one that has struggled deeply with addiction, and so I know now a little bit about what that looks like. And again, like it's making me sad because
You mean
I've seen it in someone else now.
you saw it before, or you've seen it after?
I've seen this person well, and I've seen them unwell,
Mm.
and it is horrific. It's horrific. It is. I'm blacked out for most of mine. I'm blacked out for most of it. The whole point is so I don't feel feelings, right? So I'm going through what I'm going through, and my body remembers it somewhere. It's trauma in my body, but I don't really remember half of it. So I
Mm.
don't remember I couldn't tell you what my family must have seen until I saw it myself. And it's one of the most gut wrenching things. It must have been absolutely heartbreaking. It's almost like watching someone die, but they're still alive. Like you lose the person completely, but they're still walking around. Like it's a very strange and very sad thing to watch.
I've seen that with depression,
Mm.
but I haven't seen it with addiction.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I guess it presents fairly similarly. I kind of think addiction kind of is a mental illness. It's a very strange thing.
Absolutely is.
Yeah, so I guess it's a similar thing. And the saddest thing is you can't do anything about it. Like they tried everything my family did. They would frisk me before I came in the door just to see if I wasn't carrying anything. My mum put me once in a taxi to this rehab. I don't think I made it to the rehab. I think I just jumped out the cab.
I think it's the
Like,
same with all mental health issues.
yes,
Is the people supporting they can't
they can't do
do
anything.
anything.
No, and that's a very sad thing. So I think in the end that's why I was told to leave. I was told to leave. My dad still had me sometimes. I would sleep on his living room floor. He had a small flat, so I'd sleep there. But he wasn't, it affected him very deeply as well. Um, yeah, it must have been terrible for them to watch. Yeah.
And then I think you said you were homeless at some point.
Yeah. I mean, I was an aggressive and angry addict.
Mm.
Wasn't
Is that
nice.
common, or is that?
I think it's fairly common. Like what it is fear, right? I'm deeply afraid. I'm deeply afraid. I'm very ashamed. And so the outward expression of that is F off, don't come anywhere near me,
Yeah.
basically. And so I would attack people. I'd be very abusive towards people. So it may have made it easier on them to be like, look, you can't be here.
Yeah.
Like this isn't, I wasn't the only child. So sometimes I would choose that as well. Sometimes I would just choose that. But, I'd sleep on different people's sofas, had a boyfriend sometimes I didn't. Like sometimes I just passed out in the park. Sometimes I hung out in the park and I would stay there.
I mean, that's so extreme to sleep in outside.
It's a weird thing. It's a strange thing. Like, I think by that point I was so ashamed. I didn't feel worthy really of being around normal people. And I was strangely very, what's the word? just, I was very disillusioned by everyone. I just thought, how are you all, can't you see like the world is bullshit? Can't you see like, why are you all just pretending it's all okay? Why can't I do what you're doing? So I was disdainful as well as feeling very ashamed when I was around normal people. So sometimes I would choose, to hang out with people like me.
I was going to ask that. It's like what you've described so far sounds quite a lonely existence.
Yes.
But.
Yes, it was.
Or did you have like a group of people that were in the same situation as you?
No, I mean, no, I didn't. We were all out for the same thing. Like, so none of us, I would sometimes like bump into a random person and hang out with them for a little bit. But we were addicts. We didn't have any need for friendship. We just wanted our fix. So, if it benefited that to be with another person for that time, you would. But
it's not like a real bond.
Absolutely not. Like, I think there's a really good TED talk, and it talks about the opposite of addiction being connection. I think one of the main things addiction robs you of is any connection with other humans.
I guess I had like the opposite experience, I think. And I've heard other people describe it as, I don't know how true it is, but that, you do need to change your environment. And like for me, the friends I had also had drinking problems.
Yeah. Initially, me too.
Because who else drinks every day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose, when you asked me that, I was thinking about the very end when I was homeless all the time and stuff. Yeah. And no.
So when it's extreme?
When it's extreme, absolutely no one.
Yeah.
But, when it was still kind of fun, or I could still like fool myself that doing coke every day and drinking heavily every day was fun. Yeah. But I would say now, looking back, like, where are they now? Like, where are they now? Like, real friends. The bond was coke and alcohol. The bond was the drug. Like, so yes, I had people, but yeah, we all chose each other because I had this one friend when I was much younger, and she was the one that didn't drink or didn't drug in our group. And for some reason, just made me really uncomfortable. I never wanted her to be there. I was like, it made me realize what I was doing. So yeah, like you said, I would hang out with other people that did the same as me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. Like, I just want to address the homeless thing again, because I guess when you think of a homeless person, you assume it's someone kind of living rough and in hostels. And it sounded like maybe you weren't like that. It was more just bouncing from place to place.
It's bouncing from place to place. Sometimes I did sleep rough. Sometimes I had a sofa to sleep on. Sometimes, so it was a bit like that. Like, I never got luckily, I never got to a place where I was constantly sleeping rough or, I think it was a fork in the road for sure. Because crack and heroin and stuff present themselves to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. They do.
Is that because they're cheaper or something, or
just, if you're hanging out on your own in a park in the middle of the night, and the people are using like there, and for some reason, like, thank God, it never appeared to me that would be the way for me. But I think, it was a clear fork in the road. I think things got desperate enough for me just before that point, maybe.
And so, were there any moments where you think back and just think that you can't even believe you survived it?
Yeah, loads. I remember, one time, I don't even remember who helped, but I remember walking out of a pub somewhere. This was not even that it was not even towards the end of my addiction. Walking out of a pub somewhere, and sometimes, I don't know, like, if you decided to stop drinking alcohol, you may have experienced this. Sometimes I would drink and get really depressed because your dopamine levels are messed up, right? Again, nobody tells you that, but alcohol does that. So this was a really depressive one. I just decided to just jump in a river. Okay. I just decided, oh, fuck it. I'm going to, goodbye. And I did. And someone pulled me out. Just someone random pulled me out.
It's incredible.
So there was that one. I've crashed my car drunk.
Like deliberately or
No,
accidentally?
by accident. And I'm very ashamed to say that. You know, I've woke up in places that were very unsafe for a woman to be in. And thank God, like anything can happen. And again, I'm saying this doesn't even need to be when you're deep in addiction and homeless and stuff. This can be like
just anyone on a night out.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, some of the things, like I've had quite bad falls. Like I had a x-ray of my head for something completely different the other day, and they was like, you know, you cracked all up here. And I'm like, no. You know, so a lot of times, like, yeah, you know, suicide attempts that failed. Like, yeah, very lucky person. Yeah.